I'm your host Chetan, and this episode is all about kickstarting and advancing your career in transaction banking. Stay tuned as we dive into the world of transaction banking careers and provide you with the tools to succeed. Let's get started. Caesar, what makes transaction banking an attractive career choice for young aspiring bankers?
You think about the transaction banking or broader payment infrastructure revenue pool. It's approximately 1.8 trillion today and expected to grow at about 6-7%. The first and foremost point is huge opportunity. It's a number of different organizations, payment providers, infrastructure providers, all in this extended space. But if you just narrow it down and just talk about global transaction banking, of just the top 10 transaction banking providers, that wallet itself is about 50-60 billion. So we're talking about approximately something like $400 billion of transaction banking wallet provided by just the banks, transaction banks, growing at a very healthy rate. So it's one of those areas where I think opportunity beckons. The second is, we've talked about this in a number of episodes, things like digitization and the nature of technology changes that are now fueling the opportunities to develop new capabilities, new products, new business model to support that. All of these things mean the opportunities for banks to invest and therefore for young professionals to actually have a career in them is a lot more. I think personally, I have a background. I started with a background in technology and I moved into banking years ago. But one of the things that really I feel helped me in my banking career is understanding and appreciation for technology. I wouldn't call myself a technologist now because technology has evolved far than what I was used to at that point in time. But I think that basic understanding of technology processes and tools and the capabilities that technology can bring to banking processes is something that you've grown with. And so all of us today, as individuals, young people, are significantly more technology enabled than perhaps 20, 30 years ago. And so you've got an interest in technology, you have an interest in transaction banking. This is a perfect match for both a banking career as well as a technology career. I believe that given the nature of the business, there are more integrated teams that are part of transaction banking. And so you're going to be part of a very integrated team. There's a lot more awareness and understanding of the end-to-end process, unlike some of the other lines of business. I think it goes to say, just if you look at the historical perspective, it's a very stable business. And so, there are never huge payoff days or really bad days, and these transactions flow every day. And so I think for a lot of people, job security is an important thing. And so this is an area where it's less likely to have those ups and downs as compared to a markets or an investment banking business. I think beyond all of those nice things, the ability to immerse oneself, to observe, to learn, to connect, and then repeat that cycle is what makes it fresh and interesting every day. So for all those budding people who are looking at a transaction banking career, I think it's a wise choice. I have personally benefited from it. And so I wish you well.
Vivek, what makes transaction banking an attractive career choice for young aspiring bankers?
Okay, I'll talk about why it appeals to me, and also perhaps a bit on why it should appeal to youngsters. But I'm an accidental banker, and by accident I came into banking, and I didn't know what banking was at that time, and it was transaction banking that I got into. And since then, 16 years of banking, all of it transaction banking. Now I've moved on the other side to technology, but I'm still doing transaction banking. So it just tells you with the width and the breadth, and I've done multiple roles in transaction banking in those 16 years when I was in a bank. I'll repeat some of the points which Sridhar made, but number one, transaction banking, just in terms of what it does, is massive. I think it's a bit understated or understood, if that's a word. Trillions of dollars of transactions every single day processed through various banks in the world. It's actually moving the world economy, whether it's through trade finance, whether it's through payments, whether it's just some account transfers, whatever. Every single individual in this world who has a bank account is doing transaction banking, and same with corporates and entities. So that's number one. So the impact is very wide, if you think of it that way. Second is uh, a large part of everything that we spoke about today and in the previous episodes about disruption, technology transformation in the world that's happened around us in the world of banking, most of it has happened in the world of transaction banking. So whether it's real-time payments, whether it's biometrics, mobile banking, online banking, all of that is happening in our area, in the area of transaction banking. So transaction banking was supposed to be boring, steady, slow. But today they call transaction banking the new sexy. So I feel young people are now more interested when I go to campuses to hire people. They're more interested because, oh, are you the ones who do the mobile banking? Are you the ones who do the real-time payments? When I was in Hong Kong, are you the ones behind the PayMe app? So PayMe is something like a UPI, a peer-to-peer payment, but very, very popular among the youth. So it's become the new sexy. So that's number two, which is, I would say, a real ability to get work in finance, but with being great exposure to technology. Third is a global business. It's an international business. By very nature, intrinsically, it's about cross-border transactions, whether it's trade finance, supply chain finance. So when I was in banking, I would interact with colleagues from all over the world, and I was talking to people from almost 70, 80 different nationalities. I was, of course, working for a global bank, but that's the very inherent nature. So exposure to international markets, getting to know what's going on in Middle East region, when you talk to your colleagues or helping a client send a payment there, that's really a good exposure. The fourth one, Sridhar spoke about it, it's really integrated. So transaction banking, cash management, these are all businesses in by themselves. They are run by a CEO. They have a sales team. They have a product team. They have a business management team. They have a risk team. And therefore, the career pathways that you have are immense. You can actually move from here to there, apart from having cross-border or international, if your firm is international, you have those opportunities also. So I think from an opportunity perspective also it's great. So all of it are the reasons why I believe it's a great choice of career, and I love transaction banking. Same time, if you're not willing to get your hands dirty, if you're not willing to do the grind, I can tell you it's not trading, it's not investment banking. Don't go into it. So it's a great business, it's a sexy business, but you need to be able to get your hands dirty. You need to be able to love looking at things in certain amount of detail.
If I may just add, whether banks brand it as such, every bank in its core has to have a transaction bank. Unless you're a pure play investment bank or a boutique investment bank, every other commercial bank has to have an embedded transaction banking service or capability within it. I think the more forward-looking ones have branded it as such, created an identity around it, invested wisely, and therefore they're seeing the benefits of that opportunities. But it doesn't mean that the other banks are left behind. And I think with the kind of work that this podcast is trying to do to reach people, to educate people, I think more and more of people will demand access into that transaction banking world, and more banks will end up branding
Sridhar,
because I think there's a value addition that they can create in doing that. And so it's I think a win-win situation in my mind.
Sridhar, what tips would you share with early career professionals in transaction banking?
Well, I mentioned a few things. I think it's really around getting engaged, observe. The learning opportunities are enormous. Stay connected with people because, Vivek, as you mentioned, in many cases, it's an international business. So the opportunities for an individual to move in their career is huge. and then repeat that cycle. I think there is no shortcut to this, but the learnings that you can have and after 35 years of working in transaction banking, I can tell you I was learning every day. It's an amazing opportunity. And as I said, this is one of the few business where you actually have an end-to-end view around what goes on and how it touches your clients and the implication of those things. So it's one of those pieces where I think you have to be a self-starter, you have to be self-motivated. The other piece of advice I'll give people around, this is an area where you're able to, in my opinion at least, manage your work and your life. So it's one of those few areas where work-life balance is something that you can accomplish, because it's not, while it's an important job and it's an interesting job, it's not a stressful job in the same way as some of the other banking jobs. So I think it's, again, an opportunity to think about your work-life balance if you want to be looking at this area.
Vivek, what tips would you share with early career professionals in transaction banking?
First, I really love what Sridhar said, and that for me is a big one. Is he said every day I was learning, and he worked there for 35 years. So for me, that's something that I'd like to again go back to my first response, why I love transaction banking. I think that's also one of the reasons, but that's also one of the pieces of advice I would give, is seize the opportunity and learn. But I have three pieces of advice or counsel, if I may. The first one, as I mentioned, it's a area of banking where you have multiple career pathways. You can start in sales, you can go to product, you can go to business management risk, you can start in Algeria, you can move to Egypt, come to Hong Kong, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of mobility. So move. Take the risks early on in your career. That's number one. There is a lot of opportunity, but I have seen people who also end up doing the same job for 8 years, 9 years, 15 years. And as aspiring youngsters getting into transaction banking, I would say, that's the first piece of advice. Make the move. Move early on in your career. That'll help you get used to doing various different roles. Second, and this is not just related to people aspiring into transaction banking, but into any kind of role. In today's world, I feel managing uncertainty, managing ambiguity, or navigating ambiguity is a key skill you really need to. It's a mental adjustment, and perfect knowledge is in very short supply. So you got to embrace that imperfection. You got to create your own use cases or create your own information. As they say, restless experimentation, fail fast. So do that. And don't, the world we live in is what they call a VUCA world: volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. And today, I may tell my team we need to turn right if we have to achieve a goal. And tomorrow I may say we need to turn left. And that's the reality, because the world around us is changing fast. Maybe sometimes I made a bad mistake by saying turn right. I need to course correct. So those are things where I've seen some people not able to adjust. They will come back to you and say, but yesterday you said turn right. And I look at that person and I don't know how to explain that, hey, yeah, I said turn right, but today I want you to go left because the world has changed, or I made a wrong decision, right? Now you need to. So that's very important. The third piece of advice that I will give is soft skills in today's world are increasingly important. So networking is very critical, because the world has become very connected. And if you are not connected, you are not going to be able to make things happen for your client. So when your client says, I made a payment sitting in Hong Kong, I made a payment to South Africa, and something is stuck, you need to be able to call your colleague in South Africa who will do work around the clock and get you the response. Otherwise, you can keep sending email chasers. No one is going to be responding, because it's not their client, it's your client sitting in Hong Kong. So I think making it real for your clients is very important. So having that network. So soft skills, I would say two things: network, connectivity. Second is the art of narrative. You need to be able to tell the story if you want to bring people along with you, because today's world, most organizations, large organizations, are heavily matrixed. You have to get a lot of things done through influence, through persuasion, through begging, borrowing, stealing. And that's where your ability to be able to tell the story, why is my client important or why is this payment important, then your colleague in South Africa gets it. Instead of just saying, hey, my client's payment is stuck, do it. No one buys in. So you need to be able to buy in. I've realized that whichever level you are, if you buy in people, you're far more effective and your client sees that. So that's the third piece of advice I would say, soft skills.